Some people might love the idea of having a paranormal experience, but I can tell you from my own perspective, there is nothing nice about it. I have seen plates and cups fly across my kitchen before my very eyes. My TV changes channels by itself, and I feel really cold air in the room sometimes, and I feel absolutely freezing, and this is all while the heating is on. I couldn't take it anymore, so I called in a paranormal investigator. When he arrived, he said to me, "Hello, sir. I hope I can get to the bottom of whatever is bothering you. I will be leaving here in about 4 days, with you having no doubt in your mind whether it's real or your imagination. So I am going to be looking for explanations, and then I will be looking for things like orbs later on. I will be leaving cameras and EMF detectors around your house for 48 hours, and I will be back to check the results. I believe what you tell me about you experiencing paranormal activity. However, I have to find a logical explanation to disprove it first to get to the bottom of whatever is happening here. Now, if logic isn't something I find here, well then it's time for me to get to work and investigate. After you called me, I have researched this house, and there was an unexplained death here about 100 years ago. It was a woman called Samantha. Now, it could very well be her ghost, but I'm not jumping to any conclusions. You might ask what happened to Samantha. She was found at the bottom of her bed. It was almost like she was pulled out of her bed and strangled, but there was no proof of strangulation. She was just found lying down at the bottom of her bed. I wanted to give the man all the time he wanted to speak, but I feared I wouldn't get a word in, so I asked, "What do you think is happening here? I'm afraid things will get a lot worse." As I said when I rang you, I've seen plates and cups fly across the room. There is no logical explanation for that. A few minutes later, the man who called himself Jake Watson was in my living room, checking ESP using my TV. He had a very confused look on his face, and I asked him what was wrong. He said, "Can you hear that weird noise coming through the static? There definitely seems to be some spirits here. I can't tell yet, is it a friendly or dangerous spirit, but we will come to that." Suddenly the sofa lifted off the ground, and the TV came off the wall, and we both were lifted off the ground and were floating in the air. I was panicking and thought I was going to be killed. Then I woke up. I wondered, why did I dream about that? I don't ever read ghost stories or watch scary movies, and never even bothered to research about all those paranormal things that were in the dream. I felt cold. My room was dark. I felt shivers run through me. I felt a presence in the room. I could barely breathe with the fear. But why? It was only a stupid dream. I looked at the figure at the bottom of my bed. It was just a life-size cardboard figure of my favourite celeb. Then I lay down to go back to sleep, and saw at the side of my bed my cardboard cutout. I froze, wondering if that was my cutout. Then what was that figure at the bottom of my bed? Then suddenly I felt something grab my legs and pull me out of my bed. All I could think of was the paranormal expert in the dream telling me about the woman years ago being pulled out of her bed. Siobhan was looking forward to spending Halloween night with her parents and friends Sarah and Lydia. Her parents had to drive home from town first, as they were collecting a new car her dad just bought. Sarah and Lydia were killing the time playing computer games, but they soon got bored. It was then Siobhan decided to get out a Ouija board to them fool around with. She had it as a gift from last Christmas, but didn't play it until now. She knew how to use it though, because of watching people use it in movies. When they were all sitting around the table, Siobhan asked, "Who's there?" The board spelled out, Siobhan. "Oh no, Siobhan." Siobhan asked, "Are you dead?" The planchet moved around the board spelling out, "Yes." Then Siobhan asked, "How were you killed?" The board spelled out car accident. Then Siobhan was getting spooked out completely and asked who was this, and the board spelled out, "Your mother." Siobhan sat back shocked while her two friends thought it was some sick joke. Sarah said, "That was sick, Siobhan. Why would you do that? You obviously were moving the thing around the board. Why say that about your own parents?" Siobhan said, "I wasn't messing. That was moving by itself." Siobhan rang her mom and there was no answer. Then she rang her dad. There was no answer. Suddenly there was a knock on the door and Siobhan was hoping it was her parents, but her heart sank when it was the police. Siobhan knew the policeman as he was a friend of her dad's. He had a sad face on him and said, "I am very sorry to break this news to you, Siobhan, but unfortunately your parents were killed in a car accident." There were 15 Russian prisoners being held captive in a room in the 1940s, where there was a stimulant gas pumped into it to keep the subjects awake for 15 days straight. This experiment had the rule that if they stuck to staying awake for 15 days, they would be set free. There was just enough gas pumped in to keep them awake, but monitored really close as the gas in large amounts would kill them. This was back in the 1940s, so there was no CCTV cameras. Instead, there were round mirrors that the soldiers conducting the experiment could look through. Also, there were mics gathered around the room to pick up their conversations. The first 5 days they started speaking about traumatic experiences. Then after 9 days they started complaining about their circumstances and why they were locked up in a room and couldn't go to sleep. The soldiers watching through the mirrors were stunned when they saw one of the men run up and down the room shouting at the top of his voice until his voice seemed to have gone. When it came to the 15th day, what the soldiers who conducted the experiment saw after opening the door would have an everlasting effect on them. There was carnage in the room. Most of the participants had mutilated each other or their own bodies, and the remaining people alive begged to be given more gas as they never wanted to sleep again.